Action. All right. Let me orient you to the brain. So this is your brain. So what I see, this is what I see is what's going to be on there.
Yeah.
If I see it, that's what you get, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is the anterior aspect of the brain. This is the right lateral aspect of the brain.
Yeah.
This is the posterior aspect, left lateral aspect, back to the anterior aspect. I'm not going to go and order your list. I'm just going to do these external pieces first, and then I'll take it apart and start your list. The brain has lobes. This is the frontal lobe. There's a left frontal and a right frontal lobe. This is the parietal lobe. There's a right parietal and a left parietal lobe. This is the occipital lobe, right and left occipital lobes. This is called the cerebellum, right and left cerebellum. And we'll take that apart and do other structures later. Can you make the camera go down so I can rest my hand? There we go. All right. Michelle Felton's doing this. She's not very good at her camera. The FBI wants her. All right. So this fissure right here, let me back up a little bit. These shallow grooves are called sulci. And some of these sulci have names. I'm going to name a couple sulci for you. These bumps or ridges are called gyri, or singular as gyrus. And I'll name a couple gyri for you. But these deep grooves are called fissures. And this is the longitudinal fissure right here. The longitudinal fissure divides your brain into right and left hemispheres. On each side of the brain, there's this lateral fissure right here. And the lateral fissure really separates the temporal lobe here from the frontal and parietal lobes, here frontal and here parietal. That's the temporal lobe. That's the lateral fissure. The transverse fissure separates the cerebellum, here and here, from the cerebrum, the rest of this. So this is the transverse fissure right here. A couple more external features before I open it up. Between the frontal lobes and the parietal lobes is a pretty distinct sulcus right here. This pretty distinct sulcus right here is called the central sulcus. The central sulcus is the demarcation line that separates the frontal lobe from the parietal lobe. And then right in front of the central sulcus, which is right here, central sulcus, right in front of it, anterior to it, is the precentral gyri. So this is a precentral gyrus, and that's a precentral gyrus. Together, these two make up the precentral gyri. It's your primary motor area. It's where most of your muscle contractions, commands come from. Behind the central sulcus is the postcentral gyri. It's your primary somatosensory area. It's where most of the senses of your body go to. Not your special senses, but your fingertips and your toes and your stuff like that. Your somatosensory. Postcentral gyrus. Now, for the superior part of the brain, let me see if I have everything. I got all the lobes. I got the cerebral cortex. I got the fissures. I got the sulci. I got the gyri. Okay, I have to take this apart a little bit. If I take this apart, down the longitudinal fissure, I have a right brain and I have a left brain. I only need to look at one half at a time, so let's put that half down. I'm looking at the left brain. You're looking at the medial aspect of the left brain now. This right here is called the cingulate gyrus. Do not confuse this cingulate gyrus with the corpus callosum. This is called the corpus callosum. So this is corpus callosum. Trying to get the stick to look like it's pointing to it. This is corpus callosum here. This is cingulate gyrus right above it. Now, if I were to take my finger and stick it through this lateral fissure, like I'm going to do with my stick, what that stick is hitting way down deep in there that you can't see is called the insula. So let's take this brain apart so you can see where the insula is. You hold the stick in place. Take this off. The stick was touching right here. This is the insula. Right here. Deep in the lateral fissure. So let me put this guy back together. There we go. There's the brain. Now, the rest of the structures are internal structures. So let me go to the top of your list, the list that you're using for lab. Let me go to the top of it and just start going down through these structures. So before I take this apart, let me orient you with the whole brain in place. The brainstem is composed of the medulla oblongata from here to here, and then the pons, this dilated area from here to here. That's the pons. So pons, medulla oblongata. Okay, the very superior portion of your medulla oblongata here and here is a little bit, where's your camera? Is a little bit dilated.
This is the camera here.
So here and here. And that dilated region of the medulla oblongata is called the pyramids. It's actually called the decussation of the pyramids because the word decussation means crossover. All your motor fibers coming out of your brain telling you to do a biceps curl or a triceps push down or whatever you're doing, any muscle contraction, they cross over at the decussation of the pyramids. So it really is true that your right brain controls your left side of your body and your left brain controls the right side of your body. For the most part, there are some exceptions to that. Okay, so that's, let me take off the cerebellum. Let me take this apart. Let me take this midbrain and brainstem out. I'll take this brain and I'll put it over here. Here's what's left. Half of the medulla oblongata and half the pons. Let me get the other half for you. So what I have here is brainstem and midbrain, medulla oblongata, pons, pyramids. Okay, now the midbrain is composed of some vertical fibers running off the pons right here, these vertical fibers, and they're called cerebral peduncles. Do not confuse these guys right here with cerebellar peduncles, because cerebellar peduncles are not cerebral peduncles. These are cerebral peduncles right there. On the back of these cerebral peduncles, turn this around, are 4 bumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our camera woman is not a very good camera woman. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2 top bumps, by the way, all 4 bumps collectively are called the corpora quadrigemina. Corpora means body, quad means 4 bodies. The 2 top bumps are called the superior caliculi, and the 2 bottom bumps are called the inferior caliculi. All 4 of them together are called the corpora quadrigemina.
Isn't it amazing how much it looks like the female reproductive system, the brain?
Michelle Felton thinks it looks like the female reproductive system. I don't see.
Your ovaries.
I don't see that at all. Yeah, it doesn't look like that to me.
You probably haven't seen one in a while.
What? How rude! That's just rude. That's not even. I don't even know why you would say that to your teacher. Why would you say that?
We're not in that profession right now. We're cameramen.
Oh yeah, I'm an actor. Yeah. Who am I? Who am I? Brad Pitt? No, I'm not Brad Pitt. All right.
He said you've done so much. That's like my favorite. You're my favorite.
I like Denzel. I don't think I can pull off Denzel though. All right. The cerebellum is going to come off in 2 hemispheres, and the fibers that connect the cerebellum to the pons are called cerebellar peduncles. So let me take this off and try to hold everything together a little bit. So if I take this off, right there, that white area with a hole in it are cerebellar peduncles. But we can see them better over here around this metal rod that doesn't really exist inside your brain. It's part of the model to hold the model together. So all around this metal rod right here are your cerebellar peduncles. Don't confuse them with cerebral peduncles because they're not the same thing. This is the superior cerebellar peduncle. This is the middle cerebellar peduncle. And this is the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Likewise on this side. This is the superior cerebellar peduncle. This is the middle cerebellar peduncle. This is the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Okay, let's look at the cerebellum itself. I'm putting the brainstem and midbrain down. Wow, that was heavy. Relief. Now, I'm going to take your cerebellum and I'm going to open it up and turn the medial side towards you. This white area, which is white fibers, which means it's myelinated, it's heavily myelinated, is called the arborvitae, tree of life. Arborvitae. And this side has an arborvitae as well. Now if I put these back together like this ridge right here connecting the 2 hemispheres, this whole ridge right here is called the vermis. That's the vermis. This is the vermis right here. It's all vermis. Now, if you look at your textbook and it says folia vermis, the folia vermis are actually these little tiny ridges making up the vermis. Folia means leaf. These little tiny ridges making up the vermis. That's what the folia vermis is. All right, that's it for that. Now we have to go back to the brain and do the diencephalon. So we only need this, the midbrain and the brainstem. But allow me to orient you again before I go into that. This looked like this. Let me grab the other side. This looked like this. And I'm not going to go any further because it's starting to look like a brain to you. So let me just take it apart again. And take this apart again. There you go. Midbrain and brainstem. Now the diencephalon is an embryonic area that develops into the epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland. So what we got to really do is we have to name the epithalamus, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland. Well, before I even take this apart, that's the pituitary gland right there. It hangs off the hypothalamus. That white stalk right here that the pituitary gland is hanging off of, that white stalk right there, is called the infundibulum. Now I'm going to take this apart. Notice the pituitary gland kind of went with the left brainstem, but it actually is dead center. It's right in the middle. It just happened to be on this model connected to the left side. Okay, I'm going to turn this and let you look at the medial side. The epithalamus is composed of the pineal gland right here, right there, and this habenula right here, this little ridge, habenula. The habenula is involved in smells that evoke emotions. So if you've felt a certain way because of a certain smell, like lavender or gunpowder or whatever, that your habenula is involved in that. If you're burning incense, you're burning incense because your habenula makes you feel a certain way. So your pineal, your habenula, that's the epithalamus. My thalamus is this area right here, and the best landmark for my thalamus is this interthalamic adhesion right here. It's white on this model. It's called the interthalamic adhesion. It travels through the third ventricle, the interthalamic adhesion does. This is the thalamus. Below the thalamus right here is the hypothalamus. And hanging off the hypothalamus, of course, is the infundibulum and pituitary gland. So of the diencephalon, did I miss anything? No, no, no. Yes, I missed the mammillary bodies. Put this back together. Put this here. Okay. These two bumps right here and here, right posterior to the infundibulum, underneath the optic chiasma, are called mammillary bodies. They are actually part of the hypothalamus, but they are pronounced parts of the hypothalamus that stick out. These are the mammillary bodies. You have one on each side. You have a mammillary body here, and you have a mammillary body here. Now watch. People get mammillary body wrong all the time. That's the mammillary body on the front side, right there. If I turn this around to the back side, maybe you think the corpora quadrigemina looks like mammillary bodies. Maybe you think that pineal gland looks like a mammillary body. I'm not sure what you might be thinking, but pineal is not mammillary body. Pineal is not superior colliculi. Neither pineal nor superior colliculi is mammillary body right there. So get them straight, Hua. What's next?